For more now, we turn to Democratic strategist and campaign director for the Center for American Progress, Tisch Sussman. She's in Washington. And Republican strategist and CBSN political contributor Leslie Sanchez is here with me on set. Leslie, so the White House is billing this as a unifying speech. Do you think that we're going to see that?
Well, I think the State of the Union is divided and highly polarized right now. That's the reality the president's walking into. He is going to try to build those alliances, talking about lifting the economy for everyone. This is the argument. Infrastructure helps everyone. And really addressing this immigration reform issue, specifically surrounding DACA, that is something that Republicans, Democrats, Independents fundamentally agree something needs to be done, and urgently. So there's, in terms of content, I think there'll be a lot of positives. But the threshold a lot of people may be watching is delivery and response. I think that's kind of the antics that goes around such pomp and circumstance of a big event. But it's really listening to the themes in at a very contentious time.
Emily, the president is expected to tout low unemployment, record markets breaking in stock market. Can everyone agree that these are good things for the country? Do you think that he can get people on his side on those issues?
Using very positive, neutral language to try and tout as many accomplishments as we can. We see this through his biggest megaphone, his Twitter account. He consistently takes credit for pieces of the economy that either he had nothing to do with, are overhangs from the Obama economy, or were totally private sector decisions, or in many cases not true at all. So, we do see him consistently taking credit for that. I think the bar has been set so incredibly low for this president, considering the way that he acts on a day-to-day basis. He will get up there, he will read from the teleprompter, and he will say some very neutral things. And everybody will say he's presidential. That seems to be like the incredibly low bar that we're going for here. And then, surprise, he'll tweet something totally ridiculous in the morning, and he'll not even get 24 hours out of a news cycle. I think that seems to be the consistent way we've been seeing him interact with the public.
Yeah, President Obama's former speech advisor Cody Keenan had said to the Washington Post that the State of the Union is as presidential as it gets, folks. This is it. It really is. But the president is going to address $1.7 trillion in infrastructure. This is important to folks in America. Do you think that this is potentially an olive branch for Democrats to get them on board with him?
It's definitely one of the issues that Democrats want to work on with the president, if possible. He certainly talked about it during the campaign. But unfortunately, the principles we've seen come out so far are really not workable. It's really not a starting place for Democrats. It's really the way that they're structuring this bill. It's talking about both privatization and state and localities shouldering most of the burden of the costs, which actually means costs for middle and low income people because they're transactional or they're taxes. So that's really not a place that Democrats will start working with them on. But if they want to be serious about an infrastructure proposal that's real, bring Democrats in at the beginning of the process, which is something that Republicans have not done, and the president certainly has not done with any other piece of legislation moving forward. So that would be the way to get Democrats on board.
Leslie, we all know immigration is going to be a big hot-button issue. The plan, the framework that the White House put out is not what. Forget Democrats for a second. There are a lot of Republicans that don't buy into this. Senator Marco Rubio tweeted out that they need a plan B that addresses just DACA and border security. What do you think he can say to also appeal to his base tonight?
That's the needle and thread while he's trying to thread that very difficult thing. So Marco Rubio, we used to talk about compassionate conservatism, especially under the era of George W. Bush. It was anybody who was willing to walk 400 miles, we need to find a legal way for them to be here. And if you look at undocumented versus documented, you want a legal path. If they have a choice, people want to be legal. And this particularly sensitive issue of younger children who were brought in through no fault of their own.
Which 80% of Americans support.
Exactly. But there was a big amount of false hope given by President Obama when he first started DACA through executive order without letting Congress run through it, and he could say whatever he wanted to politically. But we knew it was going to create this massive list. It was going to create a lot of insecurity within the Hispanic community and people that were trying to do the legally right thing. And now the payback is here. So there's a sense of urgency because of the unknown, because of you have so many families that will tell you they feel like they're tied to railroad tracks and they can't get off. And that's a very palatable feeling, and it's fundamentally touching Republicans and Democrats together. So Rubio's right. You have to pull that separately, because if you tie that into all all the other immigration fixes and the bureaucracy failures within the immigration system will be here for years. And the last point I'd make is that it really is Republicans who move forward on immigration reform historically for the last 3 decades. So I'm very positive it can happen, but it's going to take sharp elbows and probably somebody like President Trump, who's really going to make both sides come together on something they both won't like.
Yeah.
But that's okay,
yeah,
as long as it protects the DACA participants.
Emily, you know, the issue of Dreamers shut down the government just over a week ago. Democrats are unified on this message. They're navigating the debate forward. But how exactly do they do that? Where do Democrats pivot now on this issue?
I think moving towards a narrow fix that tries to tie DACA and the wall, that seems to be the deal that Trump is willing to make, even though he's been totally all over the map and so very difficult to deal with. Look, protecting DACA, protecting the Dreamers, should not actually be a Democratic issue. This is something that has bipartisan support, even in Congress. But because Trump has been so absent from the negotiation, people really don't know how to make a deal. And they're actually trying to have it every way possible. Trump is trying to express huge compassion for the Dreamers, but in fact, it was him that ended the DACA program and caused all of this chaos. Then when a reasonable deal was brought to him, he rejected it twice and now won't come to the table saying what exactly is a reasonable deal. The immigration, the proposal that the White House put forward was like a white nationalist checklist. It's really not a way to bring people to the table. And if there is such strong consensus that Dreamers should be protected, sign that into law by itself. You don't need to have this high price for them.
Now, obviously, this is all happening as a Russian investigation hangs over the president's head. You know, Leslie, Richard Nixon addressed Watergate during his State of the Union. I want to play a bite for you from former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie from ABC this morning.
So the elephant in the room, the Russia investigation, don't mention it?
No. I don't think there's anything he can really say about it that makes any sense. And I think if he gets in and gets down that rabbit hole, he tends to get angry about it. And that's not the person you want to see tonight.
He does get angry. He does get passionate. It's hard to let certain things go. Should he tackle this tonight?
Not at all. There's no upside to it. This is we're already talking about the State of the Union is divided. Let's talk about things in terms of how we can move together. And those, in terms of the president's responses, are things that undermine his presidency. He sees that consistently through that lens. He's not going to change and do anything that's going to make it murkier and more difficult to navigate, especially on such a momentous night. Now, tomorrow, I will agree with Emily's point. That's a whole new ballgame. And tweet away and we'll just, completely unravel our message. But today, we're going to try to bring those unifying factors, and Russia is not one of them.
Emily, you know the president loves to tweet, and sometimes there are unscripted moments that make a State of the Union, maybe responding to something in the audience. But the White House says they're not going to address this in this speech. Do you think he should?
I think he absolutely should. Look, even all of the comments that were just made were all about like the showmanship of it, the good TV of it, which we know is what he's really obsessed with. But unfortunately, that does not help the country. So it is incredibly important. I mean, talk about the State of the Union. We're talking about the state of our democracy. And he can't even begin to address it in a way that is serious. I mean, just yesterday, the deputy director of the FBI resigned. And the House investigation is off the rails. Like, these are massive issues that go really to the core of our democracy. And for the president not even to acknowledge them in his biggest platform that he can take is very problematic.
You know, I also want to ask you, Emily, about the state of not just the Union, also the Democratic Party. We know Congressman Joe Kennedy will deliver the Democratic response to the president's address. But it's funny, he's not the only one. You've got Congresswoman Waters. She's going to be talking to BET, Senator Bernie Sanders, Virginia State Delegate Elizabeth Guzman. They'll also be speaking. So why have all these folks out there, and what's the message that Democrats are trying to send out?
Look, that's media today. Everybody gets a platform, right? There's not like 3 networks that everyone tunes into. So I think it does make a lot of sense there would be multiple responses. I think the biggest thing Democrats can do is draw a contrast. The president's approval rating is at record lows. Even just yesterday, the head of the Republican National Congressional Committee couldn't name a single district that it would be helpful for Republicans for the president to campaign in. His approval is very, very low, and that's why Democrats are going to see a very large swing in the 2018 election. But when we talk about brand building and party building, Democrats really do have to strongly be for something, and this speech will be the perfect place to contrast.
Leslie Sanchez, Emily, Tisch, Sussman, thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.